You're most welcome back to the Matchbook NFL podcast. We're a bit late on Thursday. We were recording. That's my fault. Traveling home for Christmas. What are you going to do? You got to do it. Joined as ever by Mr. Drew DInsick, top right of the screen. If you're watching us now live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, we're lamenting that Periscope is going to die next March, Drew. So I don't know what we're going to do, buddy, but we'll still be on Twitter somehow. Mr. Fabian Sommer, Germany's finest. Another winning pick on Matchbook Insights, and plenty of winning picks on the pod last week. And let's talk about that, gentlemen. 5 winners from 6. Rob Pizzola, who isn't here today, will be back next week, was the only loser Rob had, and that was just by half a point with the Packers. Drew, good week for you, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very, 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 very happy with the way week 14 played out. Wasn't a ton of surprises, really, last week. I thought that the results were fairly true. I think it's fair to argue what the right side was in that Kansas City Miami game. That was the one that was kind of, in the balance late. That was, broke in my favor. I had the Dolphins. I know Sumu was on the Chiefs, and it's all confirmation bias, but I feel like Miami was the right side just because they did what I expected them to do in terms of creating some turnovers, which we haven't seen really anyone do to the Chiefs so far this season. They just couldn't really manifest it as points early, so they needed the backdoor late. But overall, I thought it was a really great week.
Yeah, really good week indeed. Let's just recap those. We had the Colts Raiders over 51.0. Jets Seahawks under 46.5. Get you in a second about that, Suma. Eagles +7. Your best bet of the week, Drew. Bills -2.5. Suma, your best bet of the week. And the Ravens Browns over 45.5. And that total in Seattle, God bless those Jets, Suma. And God bless their kicker. I can't even remember his name. It's probably okay because he's probably gone by now. But, they really, really helped us out in a massive way in that under, Suma.
To be honest, I had the over in the Texans game against the Jets.
Yeah.
And the Jets Seahawks game was just a buyback for me. It definitely felt like that because that game wasn't supposed to go under. Sergio Castillo, I think is his name.
Okay.
He missed 3 field goals. Then Geno Smith came in and they just ate the clock in the fourth quarter. It was very lucky, to be honest.
It was glorious when you just saw Geno Smith coming off the bench and then realizing that Geno Smith was actually still in the league and that he's a Seattle Seahawks. Glorious stuff. And Drew, were you on that over, Drew, in Chicago? Because that was a tough one. We knew a lot of people, even just going on Twitter, that was a tough one. And I know one line I talked about it last week, these late third quarter live totals, I had a position there in the over. I saw the way it was going. It's just too much of a lead. Texans had no major interest. Bears had no interest. And I did buy a bit back, and I had to on the under. And it's the way to go because once you hit the fourth quarter, that total is gone. You might get 7.5 live, 8.5, but I got 14.5. And lucky to get it, Drew, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I avoided some damage there, but I liked the side. I missed the best of the numbers, so I was on the sidelines there, and that did not feel like that did not feel like a fair result. That absolutely should have gone over. The way that those two teams were moving the ball, and the fact that the Texans, weren't able to punch it into the end zone one time for you was really tough. And honestly, credit to the Bears defense for playing up. It's been a long time since we've seen them really give a full effort for 60 minutes, and they did on Sunday. So hat tip to them. But I still think that overall the profile of the Bears has flipped from an under team to an over team, and the market will catch up to that eventually.
Absolutely. I think the total this weekend in Minnesota is about 47. I was looking at that a while ago. But yeah, just on that, there was just one moment there during the third quarter where the Texans had the ball on the 1 yard line. 3rd and goal, they line up in a shotgun. You're thinking, oh, sweet Jesus. Then they do the exact same on 4th and 1. And this time the problem was AJ McCarron was in the game, and I'm like, all right, I don't want anything to do with this game anymore. I'm getting the hell out of it. And Deshaun Watson came back in, but yeah, just one of those things. When you saw AJ McCarron lining up in shotgun on 4th and 1, 4th goal, you're just okay. Yeah, I'm done with this.
Just kick the field goal.
yeah. Absolutely, so far behind, but yeah, I mean, look, that was a tough one, and it was a low enough number. All right, guys, coming up in today's show, we're going to look at the Chiefs and Saints, obviously leading off, the Eagles and Cardinals, Seahawks and Washington football team, the Bills and Broncos, Saturday night football from Mile High. We may take a look around at some other bets, top dogs, and week 15 best bets. Right, let's get into it. Let's not waste any more time, and we will look at, bring it up on screen, the Kansas City Chiefs at the New Orleans Saints. This is potential to be a very good one. Suma, I'll talk to you first about this, but let's take a look first of all at the betting at Matchbook at the current time of recording. 1.62.
Wow, 1.917. Man,
There you
that number
go.
keeps coming down.
The Chiefs. So Drew DInsick is alluding to the fact that the Chiefs are being backed, or are they? I don't know.
No,
they
the
are being
Saints.
backed.
The money just keeps
Saints being
pouring
back the
in
other side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, 1.91. The Chiefs -3. Saints +3 at 2.0. 51.5 is the total. Suma, I know from being on your Slack channel that you got a way better number than 3 on the Saints. You got 3.5. I'm pretty sure yesterday. But why should we be backing the Saints +3.5? Because I'm almost certain Mr. Drew DInsick has a differing opinion here. But make the case for New Orleans first, mate.
Yeah, so first of all, I made the bet under the assumption that Drew Brees is going to play this week. If Taysom Hill ends up playing, so be it. But Brees came off IR last week. He was already practicing quite a bit. Our favorite fantasy doctor, Doc Chow, said that based on his injury status and on the timeline of his injury, he could have played last week. And he absolutely believes that he is going to play this week. So we shouldn't take that for granted. But considering the fact that the Packers are now in the first place in the NFC, the Packers also have the Titans on deck next week. It's a game they could absolutely lose. The Saints, I think, want to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I really think that Drew Brees is going to play this week. I could be wrong on that, no doubt about it. But I was very happy to grab the 3.5 yesterday. I think it was -118 late in the day yesterday. So let's talk a bit about the Chiefs' offense against the Saints' defense. The Saints' defense have been incredibly well this year. They had lots of penalty issues early in the season, but then they progressed throughout the season. And I would strongly consider them a top 5 unit at this moment. Last week against Jalen Hurts, I will give them that game because in the NFL, you don't often face an option run game. The Eagles ran power, zone reads, quarterback reads, quarterback power, everything like that. Jalen Hurts was incredible on his legs, and they didn't really have any tape whatsoever on Jalen Hurts. So I don't really downgrade them for their performance last week. Coming to this week, the Chiefs are the best offense in the league. There's no argument against that. But I think if there's a strategy to slow down Patrick Mahomes quite a bit, it's getting pressure with 4-man rushes. We saw it last season in the Super Bowl against the Niners. The Niners really contained that Chiefs passing game for almost 3.5 quarters with a stout 4-man rush and playing solid coverage behind that. This season in week 2, the Chargers had the exact same strategy. They got tremendous pressure with Joey Bosa and a 4-man rush, and they played disciplined zone coverage behind that. And the Chiefs offense, I think they scored 10 points until early in the fourth quarter. So it's not possible, in my opinion, to shut down the Chiefs offense, but if there's a way to slow them down, it's when you can apply pressure with 4 guys up front. And the Saints have a very good pass rush. They have 3 edge rushers who are really good. They got solid push from the interior, and the Chiefs might be without Mike Ramas, their backup tackle, who has been playing for Mitchell Schwartz. Mitchell Schwartz is still on IR. He's eligible to come off this week, but rumors are that he's not going to play this week. So they could play with a third-string right tackle against Cameron Jordan. And on the other side, there are guys like Marcus Davenport and Trey Hendrickson wreaking havoc. So I really think that the Saints have the defense right now to get Patrick Mahomes into some kind of trouble. That doesn't mean that the Chiefs are going to score 7 points, but I think the Saints have a matchup this week to maybe keep them in the 21, 24, 27 range. And I think if they can do that, the upset for the Saints is absolutely in play. The spread 3.5, of course. And on the other side, if Drew Brees ends up playing, which I believe right now, the Chiefs have a solid defense, but Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, they are absolutely going to move the ball on that defense. And in this case, I really like getting 3.5 early. I think if Drew Brees plays, that might go to 2.5. I made this number, I think Saints +2 with Drew Brees playing. I will be mad if Taysom Hill plays, no doubt about it, but I'm very happy with the 3.5 right now.
And Drew DInsick, look, that's the key thing here, because you look at Taysom Hill. He's added so much to that Saints team. Look, he's on, outside of the quarterback position, he's on the special teams. He can line up as a running back, a wide receiver. But I'm telling you, man, there's no way in hell this guy's a quarterback. No way in hell this guy's an NFL quarterback. And you saw it again last week. He's been just cruising along, and the Eagles kind of figured it out last week. And yeah, he had 1 or 2 passes, but it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work.
You didn't see the stuff floating around social media that Taysom Hill is the next Tony Romo?
Yeah,
like through his first 3 starts under Sean Payton as tutelage, he did blah, blah, blah.
Give me a break. So he definitely adds to the team. He definitely adds to the roster, but there's no way this guy's an NFL quarterback. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing it. The eye test isn't. He's not passing the eye test for me, for sure. He is a dynamic athlete, and if he makes the start, the Chiefs are going to struggle stopping the run. I can pretty much promise you that. The Chiefs they do not have a very good run defense at all. Alvin Kamara and the short passing game and Taysom Hill getting out of the pocket, if that's how it manifests, is going to be tough for the Chiefs to stop. And I'll assume those points were fair. I'm expecting Taysom to go. I'm basing a lot of that off of a couple of tweets that maybe are misinformation, but it looks to me at least like this is somewhere in the 75-25 that this is the Taysom Hill show on Sunday. Part of that decision making that I think is reasonable on the part of the Saints, they lost the 1 seed to the Packers. I think that's a kind of a done deal at this point. Part of the reason is, the Packers have a much easier schedule down the stretch here. This to me looks like a loss. I don't know that Sean Payton really has any incentive to try to play the good plays in this game. Whereas I think the Chiefs probably have been lining up, this is our dress rehearsal for the playoffs. So I do think there's a little bit of a disparity from a motivational standpoint. If you want to play, say, armchair psychologist heading into this game, a loss here doesn't really hurt the Saints necessarily. They have a clear tiebreaker win over the Rams, so they're not going to slide into the 3 seed. They would still have, at least 2 home games in the playoffs. And I think the likelihood that they, catch or pass the Packers is pretty low, even though I do think the Packers are on upset alert this week. Spoiler alert. I guess as I break down this particular game, we've seen a range of performance levels from the Chiefs this year that has been somewhat opponent dependent. We have seen them pull out superlative A+ game plans when they throttled the likes of the Ravens. Their adjustments in the second half against the Texans was spectacular. Their game plan and what they pulled out against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 3 quarters of that game was incredible. I mean, the fact that the Buccaneers snuck in the back door and either pushed or won the cover was ridiculous. The Chiefs outplayed them so spectacularly in that game. And I think it's not shocking that a team that is coming off of their first ever Super Bowl, coach coming off his first Super Bowl, a bunch of young players led by a young quarterback, that they lose focus from time to time when they're going up against inferior competition. It's not shocking. We see this a lot. There's lots of examples through, NFL history where you have a tough time getting up for a game when you're a 14-point favorite. And, that even if you go down 10-0, you can reel off 30 points against a good defense like the Dolphins. If you have that mentality heading into games, you can underperform. This is not one of those spots.
And Drew, just on that, when was the last time they covered the spread? I mean, I'm looking back here.
You had to go back to
Miami,
the Jets game.
Yeah, Miami did in Denver, Tampa, Vegas, Carolina. Yeah, geez, okay.
Yeah, they haven't covered a closing spread going back to September. And October. And this is a good play up spot, though. This is your dress rehearsal for the playoffs. You just got the 1 seed. You stole it from the Steelers. You have relatively high likelihood of winning week 16, week 17. This is it. This is your last chance to play playoff competition between now and when you're going to have, coming off your bye in the divisional round of the playoffs. And I think you see the good plays. I think they, I think that the points Suma brings up, if the Saints defense plays up and plays to the level we've seen them peak over the last, over the last 5-6 weeks, they've been the number 1 defense in the NFL. And if they play at that level, it's going to be tough. But the Saints are not great in coverage. That's a problem for this team. You need exceptional coverage. You need speed in the secondary if you're going to keep the Chiefs off the scoreboard to the tune of 28 points. And when I look at this game, I think, okay, Chiefs are getting to 28. Saints, Taysom Hill, are they getting to 24? It's going to be tough. Yeah. And I think the over is a fair look. I think the Chiefs at a flat -3 is a fair play. I don't fault Suma at all for taking the 3.5. That was a great bet, given that the number has moved now to basically a flat 3. But I think this is a play up spot for the Chiefs, and I think they're gonna, this is their last chance to really show you something in the regular season, and they're gonna take advantage of that.
Suma, I'll come back to you in a second, but Drew, I got to give you props. When they went 10-0 down to the Dolphins on Sunday night, the voices of Drew DInsick and Andy Malta were ringing in my head. What do you do? They're 10-0 down. What do you do, Drew? You bet.
You bet the Chiefs. You bet the over.
The over. Yeah, I bet the over.
Best bet in sports.
46.5 was that spot. Thank you very much, and thanks to Andy as well. Suma, jump back in there, mate, to what I presume you would have a retortion here to Drew DInsick.
But I only have a retortion in terms of how much motivation the Chiefs have. Drew makes a very good point that they have been playing up to their competition, like the Ravens, Bucks, etc. But on the other side, they are basically 1.5 games ahead of the Steelers right now, because they also have the tiebreakers over the Steelers. And Andy Reid has also shown us a tendency of not really showing the full playbook when it doesn't really matter. So interconference opponent, I can see that they want to play up to the Saints, but I can also see them just trying to sneak by the Saints here and not really opening the playbook a whole lot. So athletes always want to win, but I think if this is the week that the Chiefs don't play 100% but only 98%, I would assume that this is the week. But even though it's just guesswork and it's just a subjective feeling.
How much is this total? So it's 51.5 is the total right now, but how much does this jump up if Breeze is a go, I wonder? Because I was hoping this was a bit higher. If I knew Taysom Hill was there, you're probably going to be looking at an under here. But it surely jumps the field goal back up to 54, Drew, does it?
My fair price with my expected most likely score in this game is 28-24 with Taysom Hill. If Drew Brees is playing, I would say 31-28 is kind of the right ballpark.
Yeah.
And what's funny is if 1 week ago, before the Saints lose to the Eagles, before as I'm sitting here expecting Drew Brees is going to come back, he's going to play, he's going to progress back into this lineup, and this is going to be a Super Bowl preview type of atmosphere. I'm envisioning in my head like Niners Saints from last year. Those very, very the best regular season game of the year last year. It wasn't close. Came down to end of game execution with George Kittle getting face masks running down the field, and they kicked the game winning field goal. I was picturing that type of back and forth game with the Drew Brees and with the Saints trying to hold on to the one and all of the leverage in the world. Saints losing to the Eagles. Drew Brees set back this week with his injury. I've entirely changed my perspective on kind of what the Saints' real motivations are in this one. Do they even want to expose their best plays? Are they going to be trying out different things? Because they may now be thinking we may have Taysom Hill, not just for this game, but for the duration. I mean, there's, Drew Brees is not a young man, and his injury was pretty serious. And if he's suffering setbacks at 3-4 weeks into his recovery, I'm nervous long term about the Saints.
All right. Differing views here. Assume you obviously got the best of the numbers with 3.5. I don't know if it's getting back there, just looking at the market right now, but we shall see. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Eagles, Cardinals next up. Drew, I'll come to you first, but let's have a look at the betting first of all. At Matchbook time recording, and back to Eagles 3.32 on the money line. The Arizona Cardinals just under 1.39. Eagles getting a 6.5 point start currently at Matchbook at just under 1.93. The total is a rising one. It's 49. That open at 47.5. Drew DInsick, I think you may have played that one, but also we've seen a bit of money in the last 24 hours for the Cardinals. I don't know how happy I would be to be laying 6.5 with this team right now. I know they went to New York, and so what? Really, they beat the Giants. They beat them well, but one swallow doesn't make a summer, mate. I don't think I'd be happy giving even your money backing the Cardinals winning 6.5 here. But hey, that's my opinion. What's yours?
Yeah, no, I agree. The Cardinals line is inflated by a couple of points, and it's because of the cluster injury that the Eagles suffered last week on defense. So I get it. I mean, there's enthusiasm to bet against the cluster injury this time of year, especially when it's in the secondary. I think that makes a better case. I think there's a better case to be made for the over than just laying all of those points with the surcharge on the Cardinals. And I think if we look back, I regret not taking the Eagles as my dog of the week and my best bet last week. That was a perfect spot for them. The Saints on their third road game, there was a lot of things working in their favor, and they got off to a great start, 17-0, and they held on for dear life. I mean, realistically, that was a lot closer in the end than the final score led on. In fact, Jalen Hurts threw a pretty poor pass up 17-14 that was very, very live to be picked and taken for 6 the other way. So that absolutely could have spun out of control for them late in that game. They held on for the win, and they come into this game, no Maddox, he's on IR, no McLeod, he's on IR. Darius Slay is in the concussion protocol for the second time this season. I'd be surprised if he goes. And so who's covering Hopkins in this game? Who's covering Kirk? I think you finally have an advantageous matchup for your wide receivers for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, they reincorporated some of the running plays into the playbook last week. That offense was way more dynamic for Arizona. And in reality, scoring 26 points was a massive underperformance for them relative to how easily they were moving the ball against the Giants. The Giants just played up in the red zone and kept that thing closer than it should have been, even though 26-7 is not especially close. So this Arizona Cardinals team is going to score, and they're going to put pressure on the Eagles with how much they've lost on their secondary and across the defensive line. The defensive line is hurting too. This Eagles defense has been top half of the league this season, but with everyone out, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is one-way traffic for Arizona offensively, which then brings into the question, can Hurts go score for score with Kyler Murray? And based on the performance we saw from him last week, I don't see why not. I don't think he's going to be under a ton of pressure. The pass rush for Arizona is not especially strong. The offensive line, the mash unit of an offensive line that Philadelphia has out there is starting to kind of gel, starting to come together, starting to protect a little bit better. And Hurts's mobility gets him out of trouble all day long. So if Hurts has an average or above average game in this one, then I think the Eagles cover. But regardless, I think this one gets into the 50s.
Yeah, 49 seems to be a pretty bettable number. Suma, in agreement with Drew?
Absolutely. I was also staring at the over early in the week, but that number got hammered. I think it was 47 on Monday at some point.
Not for long.
Not for long, exactly. At 47, I would have liked them. I still lean towards the over, but it's a pretty big line move at this point. I think spread, I made it Arizona -5.5, something like that, -6. Still no reason for me to take the Eagles here because everything that Drew has mentioned, I think the Cardinals are easily going to move the ball. I might be interested for a side bet on the team total over for the Cardinals, which should probably be in the 28 range. I can easily see them scoring 30 plus here. There's no one who can cover and DeAndre Hopkins. There's no one who can cover Christian Kirk down the field. The Eagles have a very bad and thin linebacking corps, so Chase, Edmonds, overprops are probably in play. I agree. I won't have a play on the game, most likely, because all the good numbers are gone. But if I had to make a play at the current numbers, I would definitely side with Drew here.
And even with that Eagles defense, even at their healthiest, they've given up 18 rushing touchdowns on the season. So I don't know how much they're going to stop them. I will say, though, about the Eagles offense, and I think you guys will kind of agree with me on this. Like, you look at Jalen Hurts last week, and it just seems that Doug Peterson and that offensive staff, they have a new toy now, and it's kind of a toy that they can kind of play with a bit more, and there's just a lot more scheming going on. So it just seems to give them a bit of a push. And who would believe it? A team that's 4-8-1 on the season, heading into Week 15, has a chance of winning a division. That will tell you how good the NFC least is. Okay,
I gotta
let's
say,
move on.
You also get it. You got to upgrade the Eagles offense. They take two red zone picks. You take two red zone picks out of the equation every week, you're going to score more points. So,
And they also have a very healthy receiving corps right now with Jalen Reagor, Alshon Jeffrey is back, both Titans are back, Miles Sanders out of the backfield. So there are actually some really good weapons out there for him to throw to.
Agreed. I think, 49 is the number there. Let's do kind of a recap as we move on in a bit. And speaking of which, obviously there's only 3 weeks of the regular season left, and that means there's only 3 weeks of red zone, and maybe, that's something to kind of be aware of. And if you haven't got a Matchbook account right now, you can sign up today, and your first bet, you can bet 10 and get 10. So as your first bet is 10 quid, you can get 10 back, and your next bet applies to new customers, 18 only. Please do gamble responsibly at all times. Gentlemen, let's move on. We're going to talk about the Seattle Seahawks at the Washington football team. And I'm just looking at Matchbook right now, and these prices have literally just dropped off this very second. But before we came on air, the main line was the Washington football team getting a 5-point start, and the total was 44. And Suma, we talked about it. It's Alex Smith. This is why this line is a bit all over the place this week. Is it Alex Smith? Is it Dwayne Haskins? And Alex Smith isn't exactly shooting the lights out this year as a quarterback, but he's a hell of a lot better than Dwayne Haskins, who, to be totally honest with you, you could probably make a good case that in a year or two he may not be in the league. He just has this smell of a Jamarcus kind of Russell kind of about him. Probably being a bit harsh there, maybe. I'm probably stretching a small bit, but I just don't think this guy is getting it. And Suma, if Smith goes, what do you make this line here? Do you think it's a 5 or a 6, or does it come back towards Washington? Because that defense has been so good in the last couple of weeks. It's legit. It is a proper legit defense. But look, we'll just say it that if Smith is playing, do we back Washington here if we get 5 or 6?
I won't bet Washington here. It's actually ridiculous because Alex Smith, over the past 4 weeks, he has been one of the worst quarterbacks in terms of efficiency per down. And the Washington football team went 4-0. I still have no clue how they did that.
Defense.
This team is really built to grind out low-scoring games and try to get on the right side of variance with their defense. I think last week they had 2 defensive touchdowns, when I remember right. And this week there's a very interesting matchup. And the Seahawks offensive line, this is not good at all. And they will be playing without Brandon Shell. Brandon Shell has been a very good addition this season. He came from the Jets. He wasn't good at the Jets, but now suddenly he played really well for the Seahawks. And he will be most likely out because he re-aggravated his high ankle sprain. And then you got Cedric Ogbury playing about 60 snaps against Chase Young. And it's not like Chase Young is the only good player on the front seven. Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis, Montez Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan, Deron Payne. This is maybe the best defensive line in football right now, and they're going to play against a Seahawks offensive line that doesn't really hold well in the passing game. And just 2 weeks ago, they got shredded by the Giants defensive line, who don't really have any edge rush. So I think this is going to be a very exhausting game for the Seahawks offense. I will be very interested to see with what game plan Brian Schottenheimer is going to come up, because Russell Wilson won't be able to sit there in the pocket all day and connect on some medium routes like he did against the Jets. That one game of the Seahawks will have problems against that defensive front. So I can't bet Washington here, but I also wonder how many points the Seahawks could actually score to make this an easy, sweat-free cover for them. On the other side, the Seahawks defense, they are still in a below-average unit for me, but they're getting healthier. It helps that Jamal Adams has set a new record for sacks by a defensive back. Carlos Dunlap might be back. Quinton Dunbar might be back this week. So the Washington football team's offense hasn't been any good, as I've mentioned, and I also don't really see them moving the ball very efficiently against that Seahawks defense. Antonio Gibson might be back, and I think he's one of the running backs that might matter a little bit to the spread, because he has such a crazy explosiveness, and he's a very useful piece in the passing game. So I tend to lean under here. If I had to make a bet on the side, I would still take the Seahawks. I think I make this number around 6-ish with Alex Smith in. Dwayne Haskins would be a downgrade for me. If Alex Smith and Gibson are in, I can see that line ticking down a little bit, maybe towards 4.5. But it's a really tough handicap. I think the total is currently 44.5 or 45.
It's 43.5. It's clipped again the last couple hours.
Oh, it dipped under. Yeah. Okay, so no play at that number. I think this morning it was 44.5, and it was shaded a little bit towards the over, so that would be a good look. But it's a really tough game to handicap. As I said, gun to my head, I would still take the Seahawks and probably the under, but with the current situation with Alex Smith maybe not being 100%, Antonio Gibson maybe suiting up, right now I don't want any part of that game.
DInsick, I'm still struggling to wrap my head around the fact that Washington scored 23 points against San Francisco last weekend. Chase Young, well, what an absolute beast of a player. I know you're on him. Are you on him for Defensive Rookie of the Year? Yeah, good man. What do you think of this one? I'm pretty sure did you get Seattle at a better number on Sunday night? Because I do think there was some look ahead, like -3. I think they opened maybe around 4.5, but that line has gone up to 5.5 now. What were you looking at?
Yeah. Chase Young, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, plus 450. Yeah. Let's go Chase Young. If he's the key factor, if he's the key factor in a Washington cover this weekend, it'll be enough of a decision for me in a positive sense that I won't lose my mind. You set it up correctly though. The look ahead was Seattle -3. I was waiting very patiently for them to hang this opener after Washington won, because Seattle -3 on the look ahead was an insanely poor number. Washington football team with Alex Smith, my power rating on them is -3. Seattle, I have at +3.5. So neutral condition, I'm looking at a 6.5 point difference between these teams. I don't give Washington a ton of home field advantage in this spot. Seattle's had 2 weeks at home. This is obviously they got to travel, but this isn't an especially egregious travel. And I think Seattle matches up fairly well, honestly. Suma's points about the attrition on the offensive line for Seattle is notable. It's real. I'm worried a little bit about going up against this defensive line, which is the best in football. But they remind me very, very, very much of a recent defensive line. We'll go back all the way to last year and talk about the San Francisco 49ers defensive line that had Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner and Dee Ford. And it is almost a carbon copy of that Niners defense from a strength standpoint. Just who you got out there. Their secondary is susceptible. And Seattle has game plan for this 2 times last year. And I wouldn't say their game plan for them this year was especially relevant given all the injuries, but they are familiar with this. Like, this isn't a secret. It's not a secret that the defensive line for the Washington football team is their only strength. Everyone knows this. And I think that Schottenheimer and Pete Carroll to a degree, and Russell Wilson to a degree, have kind of gone through the preparation for what you do in these scenarios, because Russell Wilson was great against San Francisco the 2 times they played him last year. He has an escapability even under pressure that it is tough to get him tackled when he knows it's coming, right? And if he can extend plays via scramble, via moving out of the pocket, which he did brilliantly versus San Francisco the last 3 games he's played him, he's going to hit home runs down the field to DK Metcalf, to Tyler Lockett, against a secondary that just cannot match up against those outstanding athletes. So I think Seattle is going to get theirs in spades in this one. And whether it's Alex Smith, who I have rated among the bottom 10 quarterbacks that have played so far this season, or Dwayne Haskins, who I have rated among the bottom 1 quarterback who has played this season, I think you are going to be very tough to score points if you are a Washington football team going up against the Seattle defense that over the last 4 weeks is playing among one of the top 10 in the league, and maybe top 5 even. Now, a ton of that is opponent driven. Like, when you hold the Jets to 3 points, obviously your defense gets a nice grade. But I think that they're going to be able to continue their strong play of recent, of late. And I think Seattle can put together a pretty clean performance and win with a comfortable margin here. So I was quick. I got a 3.5. I got a 4 on Sunday. I don't understand the buyback off of 6. I think 6.5 is the fair price here. And I think for the purposes of the show, for the record keeping, I would advocate betting Seattle at the current price.
Yeah, so it's 5 currently. Look, it obviously just dropped off there, but I think that will come back pretty soon. So it's 5, and 5 is obviously a bit of a dead number anyway. And there could be an argument to be made that Seattle may be looking ahead to this Rams game in week 16, but I don't know if they will, because look, they obviously lost that game against the Giants 2 weeks ago, and I think that might have been just their okay, that might be just their crappy game out of the way. And I'm in agreement here on this one. All right, let's move on, gentlemen, to the Bills and Broncos Saturday night. This has the potential to be a pretty good game, I would suggest. What to make of these Broncos, though? They're a weird team, a very weird team. Current betting at the time of recording, Matchbook back the Bills. This has been hammered down all week, just under 1.37. The Broncos 3.46. Broncos getting a 6.5 point start, just under 1.92, and the total is a rising one all week long, 49.5. Now, I would suggest that this will get to 50 or 51 by the time of kickoff on Saturday night. And Drew DInsick, stay with you here for this one. That Bills game, I mean, look, you made the argument for Pittsburgh last week, and I think an argument of Pittsburgh in general. You went up against Suma and Rob Pasola. That was brave, mate. That was really brave. Not too many guys do that, but I enjoyed it. But is this a week you're going to oppose Buffalo again? That's a big number to cover on the road in Denver in December.
It is a big number, and Pittsburgh looked good for a quarter and a half. It started well. They were looking pretty good for a little while, and then
that's just the end of the first half, though, when Ben threw that pick six. That was it.
Yeah. One pick six, and it's one-way traffic from there on. And honestly, Pittsburgh, they ran out of gas, and that's what happens when you play 3 games in 11 days. I didn't really factor that into the handicap appropriately. That's on me. Buffalo, though, is for real. This offense is for real. Josh Allen is performing at a much higher level. One of the other reasons that I liked Pittsburgh last week is because Josh Allen, when he's in a little bit of windy conditions, he can be his inaccuracy re-manifests. At least that's what we've seen so far this season. The wind died in that game against Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and he was great. He zeroed in on his key target, which was Stephon Diggs, and it was game over because no one give it to Stephon Diggs in space, and he's going to hurt you constantly. That is another favorable matchup that exists this week, because in the same sort of sentence that Philadelphia is dealing with a cornerback cluster injury, so is Denver. Denver has lost a number of their best players across the defense over the course of the season. They lose 2 more cornerbacks on Sunday. And I do not know how Denver defense gets off the field. Their run defense has been slipping, and Josh Allen with this wide receiving core is going to get on the scoreboard early and often. I personally think that Buffalo gets into the 30s here. My most likely expected score for them is 31. And I think Drew Lock can come back and score on this Buffalo defense. The Buffalo defense has one good player and Trey White, and everyone else is kind of at a replacement level so far this season. They've gotten a couple players back from injury that I thought might make a difference. I thought you might see Buffalo defense down the stretch start to play like they played last year, but it's just not happening. And I think Drew Lock, with the weapons that he has in the passing game in this contest, is going to be able to, if not go score for score through the first 3 quarters, is going to be able to get you some garbage time points. My expected score in this one is 31-24. So I'm at 55. I played the over earlier this week at 48. It's 49.5 right now. It's ticked down. There's no weather in the forecast. This isn't a play down spot for Buffalo. I know they're coming off of a huge Sunday Night Football win, but this is a standalone game on Saturday. This is a big deal. A lot of people are going to be watching. I think they're playing with confidence right now. The last 2 games, both in prime time, they looked great in both games. I think this standalone game, they continue that trend. And I'll take an overlook in this one.
Yeah, and you could also play maybe a team total that'd be about 28 for Buffalo right now, probably tilting up towards that, so mightn't be a bad look. Sumi, you went to the well with Buffalo last week, and it's funny Drew was saying about the primetime aspect of that. As the kickoff got closer on Sunday night, I just kind of had this nagging feeling that, I don't know, Buffalo, Sunday Night Football, eyes of the nation on them, they're home favorites against the Steelers. They could just lay an egg here, but man alive, they were good.
They started very slowly. They couldn't really move the ball. They had it seemed like some miscommunications in the passing game, and then suddenly, starting with the last offensive drive before halftime, suddenly there was a wide open Stephon Diggs on like every play. I don't know how Brian Dabble did it, but Josh Allen was finally on point. One touchdown, I think it was the last touchdown where he just lobbed a rainbow throw at the upper left corner of the end zone above 2 Pittsburgh defenders. Absolute beauty. Somehow it was finally clicking for them, and I think it's going to continue to click this week, and I would sign up on Drew's final score of 31-24 because I bet -6.5. I love the Bills here in this spot. The Broncos are down 5 cornerbacks, and they are going to play with rookies and practice squad cornerbacks against a team that is not only 3rd in EPA per dropback, but they also have the highest rate of 10 personnel on offense. So they are playing with 4 wide receivers against a team that doesn't have any cornerbacks, and that could be a disaster from start to finish. John Brown comes off IR this week. I don't know if he ends up playing, but if he plays, it's a bonus. I don't really see how this Broncos defense. I've got tremendous respect for Vic Fangio, what he's been doing with so many injuries this season, but I don't really see how they're going to stop the Bills' offense. That should be clicking on all cylinders this week. And on the other side, Drew Lock had 1 good game, and that's it. On the season, he's among the worst quarterbacks in the league. He is among the bottom 8 in EPA per dropback. He's among the bottom 5 or 6 in PFF passing grade. He just hasn't been good. And the Bills defense, they have been progressing in recent weeks. I checked some splits today. Over the first half of the season, they were very bad. And since week 8, they didn't play the toughest schedule, but since week 8, they rank 6th in EPA per play. They got Matt Milano back, which is a very good upgrade. Some of that is their schedule, but this week they're going to play against Drew Lock, so I don't really expect a lot. I think the Bills defense also has a solid matchup in the trenches. They should get pressure on Lock, and I think it's a game where Lock could absolutely throw 2 or 3 interceptions, especially when he's under pressure in the second half and he has to chase a score. I thought this is a game that could look like 31-17, but I would also happily take 31-24, so that Drew gets his over.
Two decisions there. I'll tell you this much. I'll take Drew Lock over Dwayne Haskins any day of the week if you want to offer me. But I know he's not great, but I don't know if he's that bad. Drew, anything to add in that one, mate? It probably is the look. If you're backing Buffalo, you're probably backing overs as well, or team total overs. That if they're going to get it, they're going to get it.
Yeah, no, I mean Drew Lock is not. He's grading extremely closely to Carson Wentz, which is not a compliment.
It's fair, yeah.
But when you strip out, when you strip out the neutral game states and you just look at garbage time, he's actually quite good.
Yeah.
So,
which is great for an over. Absolutely fantastic over. Yeah.
You know what he's got? He's taken the crown from garbage time Blake Bortles and he's put it on his head. We have a new garbage time Bortles, and his name is Drew Lock. And if that's what it takes for me to get an over, we need some late points from him, then so be it. And
we have been waiting around a couple of years too for garbage time Blake Bortles. So it's good to see. It's good, someone had to take that crown and take up the mantle. Just before we go to any other bets and top dogs, let's take a couple of a look at the comments here, live broadcast. Crazy to say the Superdome favors Chiefs more than the home side Saints.
You know what's something crazy about that though? If you go back and look at Pat Mahomes in a dome, he's not as good as he is outdoors. Do you have a theory on that? Does that check out to you, Suma? That Pat? I mean, he hasn't been covering well in domes.
Not from my memory, to be honest.
All right.
He hasn't played many indoors, but for whatever it's worth, he's played out. He's played well outside. He didn't cover against the Raiders inside this year. He didn't cover against the Lions inside last year. He didn't cover
against the Chargers.
Against the Chargers inside this year. Yeah. I don't know.
You're going to get more of a sample size the next year or two as well, because obviously with the Chargers moving to Los Angeles in that dome and the Raiders as well in Las Vegas. The real B and G. Thanks for the content this year, guys. Much appreciated. Let's keep cashing some tickets. Could not agree more. One other question here before we move on. The Bears and Vikings both seem to be over teams at the moment. This is in from Patrick P. Especially in a controlled Minnesota environment. With the total of near 2020 average of 47, it's 47.5 right now. This is a play for me. Thoughts? And just one on this. I get it with the Bears, but if you look at the Vikings last week, man, that first quarter especially, they can burn some clock running the ball. I think they had the end of the first quarter there. They had the ball for 8.5 minutes, and they scored in the second quarter. And it was, they can burn clock. So I don't know if that's an automatic 47.5 to be playing that. Drew, any thoughts?
I like that look on that game. And honestly, I don't think other than the Patriots game, I don't think you can touch an under this week. It's week 15. Any of these teams that are kind of on the fringe of the playoffs or playing, they're still alive, and they're going to roll out the trick plays. They're going to try to hit some home runs. Like they're going to swing for the fences. Everybody's incentivized this week to empty the playbook. And as you look up and down the weather, a lot of indoor games this week, a lot of games with no weather conditions. So I think just overall, this is looks like a nice over week from top to bottom for whatever. Right. Grand Salami over. They have
exactly. Yeah, absolutely do.
Grand Salami?
We can do a lot of that kind of stuff. Not a matchbook, unfortunately, that one, but obviously, 47.5 is the total, and that's a 2.0 even money right now. But might be a bad look. Anything else, Drew? Anything else on the card at the moment? You obviously kind of tipped your hat there. Regards overs. Give me one or two, because let's just do a quick recap actually in those four games, what we have from that. Before I'm just going to hold you for a second, Drew. So Chiefs and Saints, the dividing views there. So let's not lock in a play. I think that'd be pretty dishonest. But let's take over 49 in the Eagles and Cardinals. Let's take Seattle -5, and I want to put in 2 for Saturday Night Football at Mile High over 49.5, and the Bills -6.5. Drew, what else you got?
I like our card so far. It's shaping up well. I'll save my dog. I don't want to spoil that. I don't. Not a lot of sides really popping for me this week, and not a lot of dogs. Is there a matchbook lineup for Cleveland yet?
No, we got nothing there. So what's the story there? We're waiting on who's the major. Really, does it make a major difference there? I don't know.
Not really. Daniel Jones limited. Daniel Jones against this defense is about the same as Colt McCoy. Either way, this should be a 7-point game by my numbers.
Yep.
So I'm going to back Cleveland when we finally get a fair limit on a price there. Haven't made that play yet, but it's going in. It's going in. I have a play on San Francisco. I think this is a decent back spot. Good matchup here for San Francisco if you want to really break it down real quickly. Their defense can generate pressure. We saw them do it against Jared Goff like 3 weeks ago. I think they're gonna be able to disrupt Andy Dalton in this one. Andy Dalton has been the beneficiary of going up against some teams that haven't been able to generate pressure the last couple of weeks, has made him look a little better than he is. And I think the Kyle. Anytime you're going to give me under a field goal for Kyle Shanahan to get to scheme against a Mike Nolan defense, I'll take that every day of the week.
We need someone fits.
But I would still play -3.
Coaching. So -3 at the moment, Drew, and it's obviously closer to evens there. You got the best of the number there. You're going to win CLV on that. That is probably an absolute lock at this stage, but I do like that angle. Look, and you know what? They do script really well out of the gate as well. So an angle to maybe look at with the 49ers is maybe first quarter handicaps, first half spreads as well, because they do script really well. And there are some teams like that. Suma, hey, we could back the Jets team total. If you got 14.5 on the Jets team total in LA against the Rams, you have got to back unders, right?
Under all day long.
All the way. I don't know if we're going to get that, but I don't know. It could.
They might score some points in garbage time when Rams pull their starters, but in the first half, I can see that being a shutout, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't get him last week either. And like I know someone on Twitter saying, "Oh, the Jets do really well in the first quarter." I'm like, where? They average a field goal, I think, in the first quarter or something like that. Because apparently Gase has one good script in him, and that's it. It's just almost like, oh shit, I've only got 10 plays that works. So I'll just use those 10 there. Hey man, we got to be careful. This Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. This is not over. Jacksonville are just waiting. They're just waiting behind, and it's scaring the shit out of me. I'm just like,
it was too frisky. They had to pull Mike Lay. He played well. We're gonna go back to Gardner Minshew.
Oh yeah, that's scary stuff. I'm like, okay, we got to be really careful of that. But yeah, look, that's one I'm looking at. If someone hangs up a 14.5 there on the team total for the Jets, I'm just going to be hammering under and Christmas money on it as well, because I think the Rams defense, the way they're playing right now, could potentially pitch a shutout against the Jets. That's the way I'm thinking, and be quite happy to go 0-16 if we can get Trevor Lawrence for next year. Okay, let's do top dogs, gentlemen. Week 15. We got 103 last week. That's not great for us. We normally get 2. Rob got the Chargers. That wasn't even a sweat, really. That was so easy. The Chargers.
They
just
went
doing Chargers. Yeah, the game that nobody wanted to win, and it just looked like that way at the end. I honestly do believe that game went to overtime, that it would have been a tie. That would have been, absolute nailed on there. Drew,
they couldn't even play a sweat-free game against the Jets. Even the Jets were in the game late.
Oh no, it's and there is a bit of talent on that team. I think with a good coach that they actually could be quite decent next year. Drew DInsick, give me a dog that you like this week. I know you're not totally enamored by dogs this week, but for the benefit, where are we going?
The only points I took were with the Carolina Panthers against the Green Bay Packers. Teddy Bridgewater, healthy wide receivers finally. Going to get DJ Moore back. Have Robbie Anderson. Green Bay is a little bit of a fraudulent defense. I think that we've seen Teddy Bridgewater go toe-to-toe with Drew Brees and the Saints. We've seen him go toe-to-toe with Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think he makes it a clean sweep with the elite teams in the NFL, and he covers a double-digit spread for the third time. The money line price is value as well, so that'll be my top dog on the money line, and it's gonna be a close contest, I think. I really don't love the matchup for Green Bay in this one.
Do you like the over?
I do, except for the fact that when they're going, what Carolina's identity when they're going up against some of these elite teams is to really, really play ball control. Like they really drag out their drives. They let the clock run. They're in no hurry. That Saints game was crazy. They had like five possessions in the first half of that Saints game in the Superdome. I could see it being like that, where they just try to play keep away. And to a degree, I don't know if the Packers are really coming in with an A+ game plan. The way you really want to make the Panthers hurt is run on them. But Aaron Jones looks unlikely to go in this one, so this might be a little bit tougher contest. And Jimmy Chin playing very well as a defensive rookie. In the secondary, I could see him disrupting some of the deep passing game that Aaron Rodgers wants to lean on. So should be a fun one.
4.55 the Panthers on the money line right now, and they're getting 9. They're getting a flat 9. Suma, me a dog for this week.
My top dog is going to look extremely stupid if Taysom Hill ends up playing, but I'm taking the Saints here. I believe Drew Brees is going to play. If Taysom Hill plays, so be it. But if Brees plays, I think the Saints have a very good chance at upsetting the Chiefs.
All right. Okay. It'll be an interesting one way or the other. To round off the treble, I'm going to take the Eagles here. Don't want anything to do with the Cardinals. I think this Jalen Hurts thing, we might just get another week out of it. Yes, they will have some game tape on him. But yeah, I don't fancy the Cardinals. Albeit there's a lot of Eagles injuries. But hey, there isn't too many dogs around this week, so we got to take something. That treble, Panthers, Saints, Eagles pays 23.7. Just under 23 to 1 at Matchbook at the time of recording. Don't forget, you can do all your multiples at Matchbook. And believe me, folks, if you go onto oddschecker.com grid on Sunday or even Saturday, look around for the best price in the money lines and the point spreads. Matchbook invariably will beat all the sports books, even with commission. Best bets. Suma and Drew, you both won last week, so you're both in the clubhouse here. But Drew, kick us off. Week 15 best bet.
I'm of what's available currently to play, because the market is moving with me all over this week. So very, very encouraged by kind of confirmation of the market. But I do still think with the buyback moving this Seattle number down to 5.5, I think that's the look. Fair price in this one should be 6.5, and I think it goes back in that direction regardless of availability of Alex Smith and Gibson.
Okay, I can give you 5 on that at Matchbook at the moment, Drew. Take that.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, Suma, best bet.
Josh Allen at Mile High, -6.5.
Hell yeah.
That's my best bet.
All right, we have already got those ones locked in. My best bet is going to be, Drew, you touched on it a while ago, 49ers. I'm going to take them on the first half, -1.5. I'm going to play the first half. And yes, there's a bit of a coaching mismatch there, indeed. Mike Nolan, he should be put out to pasture in the next year, hopefully. You would think that, yeah, please do not come back to this league. You're not a defensive coordinator, and Kyle Shanahan should have enough. And, just save that whole Andy Dalton coming back into it. You just never know. I don't want to take the full game here, so let's just take the 49ers -1.5 for the first half. Right, gents, we're done. We're out of time. That's week 15 in the books. My thanks to you, Drew. My thanks to you, Suma. So what we got 5 bets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bets in total. We had 6 last week. Hopefully we'll keep you in the winners enclosure this week. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for listening. We will be back for week 16. We're going to do this on the 22nd, 23rd. It won't be Thursday, guys. That's Christmas Eve. And I full well, I'm not going to ask Drew DInsick to do a podcast on Christmas Eve because there's just going to be too many old fashions, and I'm going to start getting jealous of these cocktails.
Early enough in the day. It's usually in the morning, my time.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Happy hours every day, man. I know what you're up to on Christmas Eve. Suma, thanks as ever. Drew, thanks as you. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again next week to round off the penultimate week of the regular season. Best of luck with week 15. We'll talk to you then.